Thursday, October 26, 2023. Let's hope this weather holds up. I don't get rained out today. Tried to do a GoPro video the other day down in the center, but I just decided to delete it. I started rambling a lot. You know, I really need to have that be a little bit more scripted, you know, when I do the GoPro, because the file sizes get really big and you really have to keep the GoPro videos to like 20 minutes, and then it cuts it up into several files, and those are easier to upload. If the video gets too long, I don't know, the Clipchamp wasn't uploading. Maybe it was a bad internet connection, I don't know. Or maybe Clipchamp wants me to buy the paid version. So, yeah, so that's where we are. So yeah, I'm going to America tomorrow for 2 weeks, mainly do some shopping for the baby and visit my parents before I you know, embark on this new phase in life. You know, it's going to demand everything I got. You know, you gotta give it all to your kids, especially the first 6 years, so they have the right values and the right sense of or the right judgment ingrained. You know, it becomes instinctive to do the right things, and all that. Those impressions, from what I read, are made in the first 6 years, and even before birth. I mean, I've been reading, you know, Paddington Bear and some other stories. You know, there's a book called Animal Tales and other things to the baby while she's while she's hanging out, you know, and in my, you know, with my wife, as one would say, yeah, inside the womb, trying to find the right words there. So yeah, so we're playing Mozart, playing Beethoven, even playing some music from India. Has a nice rhythm to it, nice variety of sounds, you know. So, you know, I've learned a lot about music, actually, how complex some of the classical music is with all the different sounds versus this pop music, you know, which they call 4/4. You know, they call that, I don't know, I learned it in college what 4/4 meant, but basically all pop music follows like a template. It has a common rhythm or something, and it's really easy to make, easy to consume type of thing. But yeah, what do I want to talk about today? Yeah, so there's been a lot of developments last few weeks. You know, the U.S. House of Representatives elected a Louisiana Republican, pro-Trump guy. He's definitely against Ukraine, and it got me thinking. Ukraine has got to make some pretty hard choices here. They've got less than a year, because, you know, if Biden's campaign starts going south, you know, the European alliance and everything can start falling apart. It's very delicate. Biden is holding it together. So I commented on a post in LinkedIn. This guy Roman from Kiev, he's a professor at the university there, Roman Shermert, I can't say his name. I just haven't gotten around to taking Ukrainian lessons. I've got like a lot to do with work. I keep up a pretty good workout schedule, so there's really not much time left, you know, for lessons. You know, reading to the baby. You know, you know, it's not much time left for Ukrainian classes. But so I dropped a comment, you know, that it's going to be some really tough choices to make. And my view is it's time to trade the territory for the NATO membership. If that's the deal on the table right now, I would take it, because I don't know what the Democrats in America are doing, but they're really screwing everything up. You know, they're not making any friends with, you know, especially with the border. The border crisis is the big one. That's the one that bothers people the most. And then the woke stuff, you know, is also, I guess, bothering some people. I don't think that is as big as a problem. You know, it's more on the surface, but it you know, perception is reality, right? So maybe they got to back off on that a little bit. At least they can privately, you know, do what they have to do and then publicly say something different. I mean, hey, good morning. How are you? Looks like we're getting some rain. It's like a light summer rain. It should be okay for the phone. I'll go actually to the loading docks. There's some cover over there, in case it starts coming down hard. At least we have a place to talk. So yeah, that's the best deal. The best deal they'll get now is trading territory for NATO. And yes, there'll be a ceasefire, but we got to get something in place before the Republicans come in power. And if they're going to do a vote on NATO, now is the time to do it. I mean, you only have you have two problems in Europe. You have Slovakia and Hungary, but I think they can be pressured. Hungary did cave and let Finland into NATO. And right now, Sweden is on the block. But I think, with Joe Biden leading the free world, as senile as he is, as old as he is, whatever he is, he's going to do a better job than any Republican in there from a global security perspective. At least he can apply American pressure on Hungary, on Slovakia, to get Ukraine in. If there's like a deal, a ceasefire for NATO, and we get that deal done, before there's a change of hands. Already some legislation was passed in the U.S. that for the U.S. to withdraw from NATO, it would need a 2/3 vote. So, from the Congress. So I hope, I hope the MAGA thing isn't that bad in America, and I will say this, I understand most of the MAGA arguments. I understand most of what they're doing, what's going on. So, let's see, it's too busy here. Yeah, so I understand most of the arguments, the border, American cultural values. This stuff is important. I mean, there's got to be some love and pride of the country. And like I said, if I was living in America and I had never been to Europe or Ukraine or anything, I would be on their side, But unfortunately for them, I've traveled and I understand how this whole world works, that if the U.S. withdraws, then someone else will fill the void. The libertarians wanted us to believe that Russia and China are benevolent, and if we don't bother them, they won't bother us. Oh, no. They just needed more time. They were biding their time and building up, and they have a 50-year plan to overtake us. And everyone's talking about endless war. Well, if we don't have endless war, we're going to have endless repression. We're fighting these endless wars to stop endless oppression, and it's hard. When you're dealing with illiteracy and poverty, it's we've got to do a better job. I think with Starlink, Ukraine can work with Elon Musk and start spreading the word of democracy into Russia. There's a lot of people with discontent, the Siberians, the Yakuts, the Chechens, all kinds of groups in Russia can be exploited. And I think that's where Ukraine has got to focus. They've got to do this deal right now. They've got to get that on the table right now. Ceasefire, give up some territory, get into NATO, and then they can start an information war. They can work with Elon Musk, get the Starlink going, that every phone in Russia can get free, open internet access. It won't be blocked. The Starlink can't be blocked. In Russia, the other internet is blocked. But if they could get that up in Siberia, maybe they could instigate a movement. They could find some rebel leaders, send them some Bitcoin or something. They can cash it in, buy some arms, and start burning and blowing stuff up in Russia. I mean, Ukraine got to think a little different. Just fighting this tactical war, on the front. It's hard. I got two, my wife's brother and then her sister's husband are both there. And then I got my friend Sergey, he's stationed in Odessa. So it's not like I'm just talking out of my butthole, It's very personal for us, And what's even crazier, all this money is coming over here, and they still got to buy all their own gear. We had to do a fundraiser for some night vision. You know, we ended up spending most of the money, like $2,000 out of $2,300 for it. You know, but anything that gives them an edge to come back alive. We did hear from him. We did hear from him yesterday. You know, he called his other brother. There's one more brother, you know, who I think was in the war. I don't know if he was on front lines or not, but he's in the border guard as well. And he hasn't been called up back to the front lines. So, yeah. So anyway, yeah, Ukraine's got to do this deal right now, you know, because the Democrats are, I don't know, it's with this RFK Jr. running, they have no chance. And if RFK Jr. somehow doesn't get on the ballots or drops out of the campaign, it's too close. They got to do some risk management here. Biden is, I think, in some of the sports betting, just a hair ahead, and then in a lot of polls, he's behind, like by 5 percentage points. So it's somewhere within the margin of error. That's not if I was Ukraine, that's not a chance I want to take. Because what could happen, if they don't secure a NATO membership, they're going to lose the territory anyway. These Republicans are really hell-bent on cutting off Ukraine and making a statement to America that will take the money from Ukraine and secure the Mexican border. Now, unless Biden can start rebuilding the wall, I know he's started building it in some portions, and can do something about the immigration crisis in a hurry, maybe he can win back some of the votes that he's losing right now. You know, so I mean, there's a lot of good things going on in America. The economy is actually much stronger than people think. They try to make it sound like we're in the middle of a Great Depression, but it's actually quite the opposite. The problem is it's too strong. It's pushing the interest rates up, you know, so, but everyone who wants a job can get a job. Nobody's really starving, you know, it's quite the opposite problem. People are eating too much of the wrong food. But housing is a problem, but that's an easy fix. And that's where Biden could actually do something and keep favor with Democrats, is take the hedge funds out of the housing market. You know, they got private equity hedge funds, you know, companies buying single family homes and turning them into Airbnbs or rentals. They've got to put some serious taxes when any person or any entity owns more than 3 homes. So you can have your primary residence, and then you can have a vacation home and maybe a rental property. Maximum 3 homes per entity, per family, or per individual, or per. And then company formations should be completely banned from owning single family homes, like individual condos, individual houses. Now they can own apartment complexes and things like that. That would be okay. That's where they can create some affordable housing, you know, cheap rent type places, and they can make all their money there. But, you know, that would put the, you know, that would right there bust this housing bubble, and it would mostly go against the companies and the people who've bought up all these properties, and then it would make a lot of housing available very quickly for millennials, Generation X. You know, it'd be like the 50s all over again. There would be a big crash, and they would be the only ones qualified to buy the houses. You know, some hedge fund couldn't go in there and just buy it all up. You know, so yeah, anyway, something like that. But yeah, now let's see, Ron DeSantis, he was talking like, you know, that he would do a ceasefire, but having Ukraine and NATO is not in America's best interest. So if Trump goes to jail and gets disqualified, and I don't think it's, you know, I know people back in America who are pretty good legal experts. They don't see him, they don't see any of these charges sticking, all 93 of these charges, you know, and even if he's convicted on it, it doesn't disqualify him. So, and then you get someone like DeSantis in there to keep favor with his voters, you know, because he'll get Trump's endorsement. He's going to have to pardon Trump, you know, and then it creates a whole lot of complexity that, you know, so we have a big mess on the horizon. There's a big storm brewing, you know, and right now here in Lviv, yeah, we all feel good, but I'm watching the news every day. I'm watching the battle in Advika, and there's some numbers we have to understand here. 500,000 Russians are dead, but the problem is they have 67 million males, and 21 million of them are eligible for military service. So they have like a 40-year supply, and I think that's over 2 years, up to 500,000. So they have a 80-year supply of people to throw at this war, you know, theoretically. I mean, of course, those guys will get old, new ones won't come on. So let's say conservatively, they can go at this for 30 years. They can keep going at this rate for 30 years, just going into the meat grinder and wearing out our people. Like, Ukraine is doing very well tactically on the front, but on the diplomatic and political war, you know, getting support of allies and support of Europe, it's very frail and very fragile, and they got to do something. They got to do something, then they can change the type of warfare. They can get this deal, then they go with Starlink, start broadcasting to the Siberians, the Yakuts, the Chechens, the Dagestan people, you know, send them some Bitcoin, send them some, you know, 3D printers, you know, through Amazon, you know, or through Tajikistan, and give them the plans, you know, get who's this Cody Wilson in Texas with the Ghost Gunner, you know, this, you know, defense distributed, you know, who's like printing guns online, and get all that just open sourced in Russia. And if they got money and they got weapons, we can create a real circus in there. And, you know, so I think that's the way it goes. And then, you know, eventually Putin is going to die. I mean, it might take another 20 years. I mean, this is another thing that bothers me, all this BS about him having a heart attack and stuff. The guy is healthy. You know, I mean, just because he's an asshole and, you know, he's a dictator and all this doesn't mean he's unhealthy. We have to be, we can't just like make up stuff because we hate somebody. You know, we got to be realistic, or we can make bad decisions because we're going emotional instead of rational. But he's healthy as an ox, and I mean, you know, I would actually, if he and Elon Musk were to get into a one-on-one fight, I would actually bet my money on Putin, because he was a judo champion, and the dude is a pure sociopath. So I mean, you know, yeah. So it doesn't mean I like him or anything. I know some critics will say, "Oh, you're a propagandist" or something, but we got to change the style of war here. You know, so Ukraine would become like South Korea. We get this ceasefire with a security agreement, NATO, build up this border. You know, it becomes like, you know, there's going to be like a West Ukraine, East Ukraine. But unlike North Korea, Russia is not a homogeneous culture. Like I was just saying, they have all these different groups that can be exploited. That's not possible in Korea. You know, Korea, they've gotten the isolation down way before the internet is out. A lot of people, you know, in Russia have the cell phones and all of this. They just don't have internet access, or good internet, quality internet access. So if we could get that to them from space, you know, we can really, you know, that's where the war is going to be won, inside the minds of the discontent people in Russia. You know, getting inside their heads, you know, and getting them thinking, you know, waking them up, getting the self-awareness up. And always out of a group of 100, there's always a few people that are self-aware that can rally up all the other ones. You know, so we can do what the Russians have been doing to America all this time. You know, internal propaganda. The Russians have propped up people like Rand Paul, Tucker Carlson, who can deliver their message. And yeah, we got to do the same. We got to do the same back, and we can use the new technology to do that. But Europe, America, Ukraine, they've got to get ready for this storm coming in 2025. And I don't know, maybe Ukraine needs to do some convincing to Joe Biden that, you know, fix the border, you know, be consistent. You know, you're doing everything for us here to help us guard our border, guard your own border too. You know, we'll even send some troops over, token amount. Of course, you need all the ones we can have here, but we can use that as a training, you know, as well. You know, send some Ukrainian border patrol guys over there and they can get training while they're also helping guard our borders. You know, they got to do something like that. They can't just like sit there and go along with everything Democrats do. You know, they got to oppose them somewhere as well to show the American people that they have the same values as conservative American people here. You know, anyway, those are my thoughts. Bottom line is, we got to get this ceasefire with the NATO security agreement and then take the war on another level. You break up Russia, and in 30 years, 20, 30 years, when Putin dies and things devolve into chaos, get it all back and then some. Get Belgorod back too. It's gonna, some victories just take longer than others, and a lot of victories requires different ways of thinking than traditional thinking. You know, just going and throwing people into a meat grinder, you know, while the curtain is closing on your back, the people who got your back are, you know, becoming unreliable. You know, you can just see where this is going. You know, so I hope somebody in a position, a decision maker, sees this and can start thinking differently, and we can do something here while we have time. Anyway, take care and see you, and I'll make my next video from America